All right, so in this edition of Astrology Explains It All, I'm going to talk mainly about Kamala Harris. I'm going to talk about Lauryn Hill and her daughter, Selah Marley. And I'm also going to talk about Ellen DeGeneres a little bit. All right, so we know that Kamala Harris was selected by Joe Biden and his, his team or whatever to be the VP pick, his running mate. So, a lot of people speculated this. It wasn't a super big surprise, but it was because like there were so many rumors floating around, in social media land. Like there was one rumor where someone was like, oh, she unfollowed Biden. He's not going to choose her. Like there were so many different small things going on. So anyway, there's some things happening in her chart showing this potential for this to have become the decision. So first of all, she's a Libra sun, Aries moon. I'll talk about that in a moment. Also, when I'm talking about people who are famous or well-known or a politician or whatever they are, when I talk about their birth chart, if I don't have the birth time, I typically don't go too much into risings and birth charts because, we don't have that information. But there are websites that you can go to that are more reputable where it will tell you where they got the birth certificate information from. And there's some site, and those same sites will also tell you if they don't know, right? So I think that's pretty cool in just trying to navigate this astrology stuff. So, when she has going on right now, she's in Jupiter trine natal Venus. And we think about Jupiter, this expansion, growth, right? And Jupiter's trine her natal Venus. So you have a situation going on when you think about Venus. Venus is not just love, and it also can be, money, we know that as well, but Venus can also just be a symbol of partnership. So her Jupiter trine Venus, so Venus right now is also a good indicator. Now we also could look at the fact that in her transit chart, so again, the transit chart is your horoscope because it's based off your birth time. And so I have a video about that if you want to check out like how you would do a horoscope reading using someone's birth time. That is the most accurate. If we don't have someone's birth time, we could just go off the general sun sign, which I do in my horoscope videos. Not videos, I'm sorry. My horoscope posts on Instagram. Follow me on Instagram, Amethyst Virgo, which, I've found them to be pretty accurate. But again, those sun ones are more bigger things. But when you do my horoscopes, I also say check your rising because your rising might be more accurate for you than your sun, of course. But my point being is there are more than one way to do a horoscope. The most accurate being the transit because that is personalized to you. And so she has Jupiter in the 8th house. Jupiter's in Capricorn right now in the 8th house. And so I think it's interesting because the 8th house is this house, which is, it has to do with internal power, right? We think about the first house and maybe more external, right? The first house is more that like confident, that Mars action oriented. I'm going to go do this. This is who I am energy. And the 8th house is, I don't want to list everything the 8th house is. I have plenty of videos explaining this. But the 8th house, in this case, I want to talk about the fact that it shows this fortitude. The 8th house can be where you're trying to gain resource. You can gain in the 8th house from others. Joint assets. 8th house is also linked to what you get from others, which is why it's related to intimacy. So the 8th house, again, I'm just talking about this case. There's a million things I can say about the 8th house. That's not what this video is about. So Jupiter being in her 8th house is interesting because it's almost like you're benefiting from your association with others, right? So she's benefiting from Joe Biden running because she decided not to run, right? So remember, Kamala Harris was running for president a couple of months ago, and then she dropped out of the race. Again, there's so many strategic reasons why politicians do what they do. This could have already been in the works months ago when she dropped out. You know what I mean? We don't know. But the point being is 8th house is a great place to draw resources from others. And it's not a bad way unless somebody's doing it for bad. Just like the 2nd house is when you're making your own resources, right? And so Jupiter being aspected here is a good indicator of what just happened with her being selected also because Jupiter is trining her natal Venus. Okay, so what else? She also has in her actual transit chart, there's some action going on between the sun and her Mars. I believe it's like 0.2 degrees. So both the sun and Mars are right now in fire signs. And so anytime there's fires, we think about the sun shining, prominence, and Mars, which can indicate action, being called to action, having to do something. So we have, she also has, there's some interaction going on between her sun and her Mars. They've been within like 0.2 degrees or something of each other. I forgot what number exactly it is. Now, also in her transit chart, according to her birth time, based on the site. She is, her Venus in Cancer is transiting her first house, the first house, self, image. We see your first house. Your first house is consciousness, 12th house, unconscious. I have plenty of videos about 12th house, but the first house is where we are actualizing ourselves. We are taking something and saying, this is me. You know, pen, someone's like, I am this pen, I exist, and this is me. I'm going to show you that I'm blue. Okay, that's a weird example. But I'm saying first house is conscious of like, I'm showing this to the world. This is who I am. This is my actualization. So when she has Venus in Cancer transiting her first house, so it's not only what she's conscious of and she wants to show that her likability, you know, as a Venus in Cancer transiting her first house, she's conscious and aware of like, I need people to understand who I am. So her team's going to release more information about her background. Her team, you know, look forward to her team is going to release more facts about her because, you know, there's been a lot of rumors floating around. As you know, female politicians face a lot of, you know, a lot of criticism. Everything's critiqued. You know, you are in the spotlight, so people are going to critique you, but you saw that even with like Hillary, right? And like someone with Hillary's track record, if she was male, could she have won? You know what I mean? And those are just the questions, you know, and it's like, that's a reality of the situation. Like, you know, there's a lot of male politicians that have a lot of like skeletons in their closets and a lot of, you know, accusations against them or a lot of different things, but it's not always brought to the forefront as a talking point when it comes to their politics. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, when it comes to their politics, it's almost like the male politicians get to be separate. Like all that stuff they do, all the things some of them are accused of doing, it's like separate from their politics. When it's like, but when it's a female politician, it's like everything is in one. And we're going to talk about this person's past from 20 years ago, but we're not talking about what they did. Again, I'm not a political channel. I have very strong opinions on everything, but this isn't the venue for that. You know, I've said before, I really do feel like in general, American politics is so polarizing now, that I feel I would love an overhaul of politics. Like, can we just like figure this, because it's becoming too polarizing in my opinion, where it's, and then even when you fall within a certain leaning, it's then even within that, you don't agree on her, but like, it's a lot. And I just feel like there needs to be an overhaul. With that said, in November, something is going to happen. We're with or without you, without me, whoever, something's going to happen. And you have an obligation to do, I guess, what's best for you. But if we look at the nation, we have to make some decisions. You cannot look at what's happening in this nation and not make some decisions. You cannot. You know, if you consider yourself someone who's like caring about what's going on. I get it. I totally get people saying like, but wait, I'm not in love with these candidates. Like, you're not going home with these candidates. And when we look at politics and what the president can appoint all these other different people who impact our life, that is the other thing. Those are the other things that matter, right? We have to understand that. But again, I'm not going to talk politics right now, but I did want to share that tidbit. And just like her team has to put more information out about her because, you know, as a woman, she is going to be critiqued heavily. And not only that, she's a woman of color. You know, she's a biracial woman. You know, she's Indian and Jamaican. She was born in America, California, right? Yeah, Oakland. Yeah, she's from Oakland, California. Because already you have these people, just like they did to Obama, questioning where was she born? Where was she born? You know, it's like they're always trying to add like some sense of like, they're trying to like, you know, make it seem like someone's like not legitimate or something of that nature. So there are already these questions. So her team, Venus in Cancer, spotlight is on Kamala. Yes, we have to, you know, even so much more so than Biden. I think there's going to be way more, there's going to be way more, I feel like excitement, to be honest with you, around Kamala than it is with Biden, to be honest. Even if you look at the poll numbers, I think after he announced that, they went up a little bit. So Venus in Cancer in the first house. I also think, though, on the flip side of that, spotlight on her, but Venus in Cancer is a positive energy. You have people coming through saying they like her. Now, again, I know there are other people who are critiquing her past and critiquing her work in California, you know, with certain things, certain topics and mass incarceration and all those different things. I totally get, people have every right to like, you know, not want to leave any stone unturned. But again, I like what some people have been saying. They're like, well, just make this person accountable. Like, if you feel like this person didn't do a good job 25 years ago or 15 years ago, right? Let's see what they do and hold them accountable and remind them we know what they did. You see what I'm saying about politics? Again, I'm not going to go into debates. This is not a debate channel. I'm not debating anybody on my opinion. This is an astrology channel. And for my opinion, I have people I go to who I have good conversations with. So the reason I said it is because it's like, I don't like when people waste time online arguing with strangers. That is such a waste of your time. You can go up, you can be creating something. You could be doing your hobby. You could be doing something that brings you joy. I do think there's nothing wrong with being challenged. Like, sometimes being challenged or someone bringing something up that you didn't know. But I think it all depends on the intent behind the conversation. If you're really trying to help somebody, it's different than you trying to call them stupid or act like you know everything. You know, when you just read blogs and you just read what somebody posts on Facebook. Like, you're not an informed person if that's where you're getting your information. But anyway, yeah, Venus in Cancer. There are people coming through who actually like her though. And you'll see that, you're starting to see a lot of that. There's people, Venus in Cancer is giving her that influence. Now, Libra Sun, Aries Moon. I don't want to spend too much time, but I haven't talked about her before on my channel, so I'm going a little bit more in depth. She is Libra Sun, Aries Moon, so she's got cardinal energy. So you see her as like, she does seem like she's confident. You know, there's this confidence about her, but there's also this kind of personability, because if you look at her, some of her interviews, so some of her less serious interviews where she's just, you know, being herself or, you know, it's a more lighthearted type of interview with people, you see that she laughs a lot. You can see that she's able to engage with people easily. And if her birth time is correct, she's a Gemini rising. So there's this kind of airy energy of like, she can, you know, kind of get into, you know, a lot of spaces, or she kind of can relate to a lot of different people. And this Libra Sun need to kind of understand and relate to other people, and the Gemini kind of free-spirited type of energy of, but remember, Gemini is also really good with information. So I think that she has that kind of, that air charisma, the air sign charisma, you know what I'm talking about. The Aries Moon is protective. The Aries Moon is responsive. So you'll also see another side of her where, like, when people make things up or when people challenge her on things that she doesn't feel she should be challenged on, it's a different type of energy that she has, right? So it's Aries Moon is very protective over themselves, and they're very responsive, and they're not going too loud. Now, I think she does this with a lot of poise and a lot of dignity. She has Mercury in Virgo. So the Aries Moon in her and the Libra Suns need to project harmony in some way. It's not going to make her, you know, some people might be like very, you know, aggressive, but she's not aggressive. It's not an aggressive, it's a confidence, and it's a assuredness. Aries Moon is very assured in whatever it is they believe, you know, about themselves. And so that's, you know, interesting there. She has a Saturn in Aquarius as well. Sometimes you see some people with Aquarius energy, there's some type of uniqueness that's going to eventually bring them to some type of prominence. Now, Saturn caused a little bit of a delay in that. So you're seeing that kind of manifest now. Yes, she's had a career for a long time, but now she's finally being seen. And remember, her, you know, she's not the first female VP running mate. We know that she's not the first one. We haven't had a female VP or a female president at all. But Saturn, Aquarius can bring, there's some type of difference about her experience and that hard work effort that she had to in order to get there. And I just found the Aquarius influence interesting because also Obama, who, you know, has a Aquarius rising and Jupiter in Aquarius, right? And like his campaign was off his difference, right? I mean, I don't want to say it was off his difference, but I feel like it gave a lot of people like, wow, like this, he has a chance to be the president. You know, we've never had a president like this before. So, or, you know, I think those two indicators there, I just found that Aquarius thing interesting because they both come from, you know, a biracial background, and they both are, you know, she has a chance to be the first female VP, and especially of, you know, of color. So, all right, let's move on. I wanted to talk about the Trump mailboxes, but I don't even, all I'm going to say is right now, so I'm about to talk about Lauryn Hill and her daughter, Selah Marley. He's taking, you know, he's ordering that the post office, there's been some like stopping to their machines or something like that. And I think trying to cut funding. And then also there's something, now again, this was already thought about beforehand. But I think the Kamala Harris and Biden ticket is now forcing, he's like, I don't know if I'm going to win if something doesn't happen, and he's concerned. So what's happening is people can mail in vote like they voted in your state's primary, right? So some people mailed and voted during the primary because during the pandemic, you know, some offices were shut down. I mean, some polling places voting places were shut down. And, you know, some people didn't want to wait in a line or be around a bunch of people at that time because the primaries were like a few months ago. And it was, you know, around where the melee was like, what's going on? And people didn't feel comfortable going to certain places. So people mailed their votes in. So they're trying to make it so, well, you know, this is not new. Mail-in ballots are not new, but people are taking more advantage of it because of the pandemic. And so people can mail in their votes also for the presidential election. And Trump doesn't want that because I think, obviously, we know there's always been a voter suppression type of energy coming from, you know, Republicans. And this is what I'm going to say also, guys, about voting. And I get it. Like I said, I get there needs to be an overhaul of American politics. I'm 100% for that. But I also think we have to live in reality. And like, there are real people right now dealing with situations that, you know, if we had different leadership, some of this would be different. Some of this would be different. Not all of it, but some. But, you know, it's like something's going to eventually have to happen. I forgot completely what I was going to say. Anyway, with this, if voting didn't matter at all, and if both sides were exactly 100% the same, maybe they're like 65% the same, maybe 50% the same. I don't know. But there would be no need for voter suppression. If both sides are exactly the same and doing the same exact thing, why are they suppressing votes? I think y'all need to start. Why are they suppressing votes? Don't answer. It's a rhetorical question. So, yeah, I mean, we already know Trump is a Gemini, Sag moon, okay? Leo rising. So, a lot of mutable energy. Not really sure where he stands sometimes on things. You guys have seen that. And that is not a uniquely... Mutable signs can sometimes do that. Who else is a Gemini? Pisces moon. Kanye West. So, and then we're going to talk about Lauryn Hill, who's Gemini, Sag moon. Yes, I'm not, and you know, I don't have. There's no sign that I pick on. There's no sign that I'm like, whoa. But I'm like, sometimes it causes a little bit of unstable energy if it's not anchored by a more grounded moon sign. Is what I would say about Gemini energy. Gemini does really well when it has that balancing moon sign, because remember, Gemini is the first air sign, and so it's this need to scatter and share ideas. But when the chart isn't well aspected, that's what you got to look at. I'm not saying all Geminis are going to do that. I'm saying the chart has to be well aspected because that energy can kind of, you know. But anyway, you know, he has some other things going on. He has like his moon, his moon conjunct Mercury. So Mercury's in Leo right now. He's not a Leo, but his Mercury, his Leo rising. Mars is square Saturn in Trump's chart. So power. You know, power moves, authority. I'm going to use my authority to do something, okay? What else? Jupiter square natal Jupiter. So Jupiter's usually positive expression and positive expansion of something, right? That's an optimism, but it's square. So it's like, I forgot what his Jupiter sign is in. But anyway, we already know there's some things going on his chart. There's also some things going on in his chart of why does he still have supporters? Why do people like him? There are indicators in his chart of why he has people that like him. So that's the thing about astrology. You don't have to like the individual. You don't have to understand the individual. You don't have to like whatever. But it's going to show you sometimes, why does that person keep getting all those votes? Why are these people voting for him? You got to look at that chart and see there's certain things in his chart showing some people are going to gravitate towards him, whether you like it or not. All right, let's talk about Lauryn Hill. Okay. Okay. So she has, Lauryn Hill, I believe, is 6 kids, 5 of which are with her ex, Rohan Marley, who is the son of Bob Marley. So they're not together anymore. So Selah Marley is her 21-year-old daughter. You know, very beautiful young lady. She, I think she's done some modeling as well. but she took to an Instagram live, and she basically, you know, she shared a lot about her childhood, her disconnect with her parents, mainly her mom, and just like feeling that her parents did not show her how love was supposed to look. She remembered some of the fights that they would have, or like the tension. She said her dad was not there. And then she also said that a lot of times they were raised around the grandmother, which was, you know, Lauren's parents, the grandparents. I think grandparents or grandmother, I don't remember exactly. But then she was saying that she used to get beat with extension cords, like Lauryn Hill's way of, she alleges that Lauryn Hill's, well, Lauryn Hill confirmed this. Let's talk about this. That her way of discipline was like beating them with a belt or beating them with extension cords, or, you know, something that now is definitely considered physical abuse, you know. So now, before I go into all that, Lauryn Hill did respond. And in a very Gemini sun, Mercury, Gemini way, she has this very long response where she basically says, yes, we've talked about this. Like she admits, like, me and my daughter have talked about this. She also explains about like systematic racism. And one, I do know that I do feel there's been more talk lately in the past couple of years in the African-American community about just like modes of discipline and like, not beatings, but, you know, like you get whooped, right? Like it was a way of disciplining, but a lot of people have been said like, well, is this remnants of like this concept of slavery, of like, if somebody does something wrong, we have to physically harm them. Like there has been a move away from that, where a lot of people who grew up like that, grew up saying like, you know, and there's people like, well, I grew up like that and I'm fine. And that's just discipline. Doesn't mean you hate your child. Doesn't mean you're abusing your child. And some people like, but you're hurt. You're showing them that physical pain is how you discipline, and you could just talk to the kid or give them a, you know. So there's been that conversation in the African-American community about where this comes from, what's the best way to discipline a child, what's abuse, all those different things. So I do get where Lauren's coming from, where she's like, well, this is maybe like how she was raised. Like there was a lot of people who were like, that's how I was raised. Like my parents weren't beating me down, or, you know, I wasn't going to the hospital, but it was discipline. So she mentions that. Okay, I get that. But then she also goes into a long thing, and she starts talking about systematic racism and all this. And it's like, I get you, Lauren, because there was the tax evasion thing where she got put in jail for not paying her taxes. But I also feel like it was something weird where like she said she wasn't going to do it. And I know that there has been some criticism of like, there has been an article I read once about like how the Black celebrities were more unfairly targeted for tax evasion than non-Black celebrities or white celebrities. And so I remember that article. So I'm not saying that's not possible as well, but the whole thing is just like her trying to basically not validate her daughter's feelings. If you read between the lines, she acknowledges things, but she doesn't really say like, I'm sorry, or, you know. So let me talk about why that is. So Selah Marley is a Scorpio. Her mom is a Gemini. By itself, okay. But then we look at the other placements. So her daughter is also a Virgo moon. And so now we have Scorpio and Virgo energy where you need something more specific. That child needs something way more specific. And her mom is a mutable sun and moon. So she's moving. She has to move around. She has to do a lot of different things, which is why I think Selah said that they were raised with the grandmother for part of the time. They weren't always with Lauryn. And so this Virgo moon, she's analyzing as a young lady, she's 21. So again, the interesting thing is I think a lot of the young generation does this. They take to online to share what's going on with them. And sometimes some people may say that's oversharing, but I also think for some people it's therapeutic and they're trying to find somebody who relates to them. Because you could tell she's really working through this, her childhood and what she saw and what she felt. And her dad she said he wasn't there. And because he wasn't there, she doesn't understand men and what their purpose is. So she's dealing with some really intense things. And I think at 21, she's able to verbalize those things. Whereas I feel like a lot of 21-year-olds could be doing something really impulsive or not trying to understand why they're doing certain things, but she's trying to understand because that Scorpio psychological, emotional need to understand. And Virgo moon analyzes, she's trying to break down and process it because she said she had a bad encounter with her partner where she overreacted and she was trying to figure out where that came from. So I think she's got that really deep, that's deep, going on there. And she's Venus and Scorpio. So Lauryn, when you have a lot of mutable energy or you have a Gemini, like if you have that type of energy of Lauryn Hill and your child is a Scorpio, so there's a more seriousness to this emotions, right? It's not just capricious, I love you, let me hug you. It's, I need you to, Scorpio child needs to trust you And I have a video about the Scorpio child. So this is a perfect example of Scorpio child needs to trust you. Okay? If they don't trust you, this is not, they're going to feel like Selah. Okay. And again, the reality of the situation is sometimes you do have people whose parents did everything for them and they're still not happy. So I don't want to say that it's always the parent wrong or it's always the child. Like, obviously, the parent molds the child's life. You know, the parent shows the child what love is. The parent demonstrates that even through the relationship with the other parent. But what I'm saying is, once you've seen enough to say like, okay, but sometimes I've seen some people like, wow, your parents did all these things for you. They gave you emotional security. They gave you financial security. They gave you this and that, and you're still mad. So I don't think this is one of those situations. I feel like she wanted more than money. She wants to feel loved. And the other thing is Selah has a Sag Mercury, and her mom has a Mercury in Gemini. Those are opposite signs. And so but they talk. That's the thing. It's not a disconnect between them talking. The disconnect, she says she doesn't really talk a lot to her father. But interesting thing with, I believe Lauren. Lauren's like, me and my daughter talk about this, or we talked all the time. Like, she made this long thing and she didn't apologize to the girl, or she didn't. It's like Lauren said a lot of nothing, right? Like, you know what she said, but it's like she refuses to say, you know what, this is how I was raised. I was wrong. It's like she has bits and pieces of clarity, but then she goes off on a tangent. It's Lauren. But we know Lauren is incredibly talented. So this is not me slighting Lauryn Hill, but in this situation, this is what I'm talking about, the situation between her and her daughter. And again, parent-child relationships are complex. There's going to be her side. You know what I mean? There's going to be so many different sides to this. So I also have to acknowledge my limitation of, I don't know these individuals. None of us know these individuals when we talk about people. We don't know them, right? But astrology can tell us a lot too. So the Sag Mercury person needs to understand the purpose of something, the deeper message. Like, that's why she's questioning this. Why did you do it that way? Why did you raise me like that? And Gemini is factual. So even mutability, it's factual. Like, so Lauren's like, well, I did this for you. I made sure you had this. You were this, like, so it's going to be very difficult for them to meet in the middle because there's so much different energies going on in their chart. Even you have their outer planets. I mean, you have Lauren with Jupiter and Aries. So that's why she rose to the top. Jupiter and Aries people, you're going to be known at some point, most likely in your life, for something you do. Look at Lauren. Like, people know Lauryn Hill's name, even if she doesn't put music out all the time or she doesn't show up on time to shows. Jupiter in Pisces is Selah. Selah has Jupiter in Pisces. So she's here for a deeper, a more spiritual, in-depth, like she's trying to understand all these things in a more in-depth manner. Okay. And so, Mars and Virgo. So Selah has Mars and Virgo. Mars and Virgo is, she doesn't want to make mistakes. She's seen her, what she's experienced, and she's like, I don't want to make mistakes. I don't want to make the same mistakes my parents did. And it's like, she's very intelligent, because she's like, and you can tell, like, she's going through a lot. She's going through a lot emotionally with this, and she's trying to understand it. And I feel like her coming to IG Live, her doing this publicly, so people are like, well, why is she putting her business out there? I think it was like, she can't get through to her parents. I feel like she feels like she can't get through to her mom, because she said it. She's like, I called my mom, and she said it. So I feel like now it's like she needs someone to understand her, and she might get an outpour of people like, yeah, I experienced that too, or whatever the case may be. Like, I feel like she's out. She's like, I can't handle this by myself anymore. Try to talk to my mom. We're not on the same page. Again, their astrology shows why they're not, because it's interesting, because I was like, okay, Lauren has Venus in Cancer. Isn't that usually a motherly placement? But I mean, Venus in Cancer can also place a lot of emotional demands on those in their life. Like, there's kind of this expectation of like, well, we're related, so my kids need to love me type of energy sometimes. But I think Venus in Cancer can be very nurturing in some degrees. But in Lauren's case, it's in Selah's. Now remember, each kid's going to have a different experience. So her brother Zion could come on and have a different interpretation. Like, yeah, she disciplined us, but, I have a great relationship with her. Like I'm just making this up. I don't know what the relationship is, but I'm like, that's what you have to understand about the moon. Her siblings might not feel exactly the same as her, even if they went through similar experiences, because your moon sign is going to help you see how you connect to your nurturing and your mother. Okay. But I feel like she put this out here because she couldn't connect to her, and she needs to connect to somebody out there who understands what this type of situation is like. Now, again, we are limited in information. We were not in that household. some of you, you know, might experience this and like, yo, I kind of know where she's coming from, but we don't know them, or I don't know them enough to say like, who's this, who's that. But again, even with the extension cord stuff and the beatings or whatever, like Lauren's response, she said, yeah, you know, this is my way of discipline and might not have been right. So it's like Lauren starts off good and then then she says all this other stuff and it's like, wait, Lauren, we're talking about this. What is going on? Either way, that's what it is. And lastly, because I don't want this to be too long, I tried to keep it under 30 minutes, but that's not happening. Ellen DeGeneres has got a lot of controversy lately about her show. The show's not even running right now, right? It's not even in production because a lot of stuff has been shut down. But people are making a lot of accusations about her, you know, her show and her set. So like employees, you know, people saying, you know, there was like someone's sexual harassment claim wasn't taken serious. You know, just very uncomfortable work setting. Ellen not being, you know, friendly and doing like a lot of these like power move type of situations. So again, I haven't read as in depth about it, but they're basically, let's just say a lot of people who worked for her on her show are coming out saying some things, and guests are also saying some things, but some celebrities are coming out in defense of Ellen, you know. That's you know, that's on them. I don't really have a strong opinion on this particular topic. So she's an Aquarius sun. So I did look up her chart and the birth time said it was pretty accurate. Okay. So she's an Aquarius sun, and, you know, in a moon in Aries, apparently. So already when you see Aquariuses, there's this kind of dry humor. You know, they're very, it's witty. You know, you see Ellen, you watch her show, there's this wit. But underneath a lot of those things is like, you can see remnants of the person. And so what's interesting is she's a Pisces ascendant. So I think, again, that's why so many people viewed her as like this, what's the word I want to say? Viewed her favorably, because Pisces is like this whimsical energy where you're like, wow, this person's so cool, or they're so not down to earth, but I guess you could say Pisces, right? I don't know. I'm just like, you know, I know my stuff, but for some reason my brain is just like, I can't put the words together right now. Pisces rising, I mean, kind, gentle. These people are giving. These people, you want to be around them. They're calm. They're not too much. And I think when you see her on her show interviewing people, it appears like she cares. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. She cares. She's like, she's empathetic and she wants to understand. And sometimes she has tears in her eyes. All right. But remember, the ascendant, the rising is not what you really are. And I looked at her chart and I don't think she has Pisces anywhere else. So when you are an ascendant, your ascendant, a rising sign is something, and it's nowhere else on your chart. That's not who you really are. Now that is going to dictate the rest of your chart, right? Because you're going to, Pisces will be your first house. Your second house will be Aries, you know what I mean? Aries and Taurus, so forth. Unless you have an interception, that's a whole different conversation. But an interception is an astrology in a birth chart. Neither here nor there. But for all intents and purposes, it'll go in order, correct? So that's the only influence of Pisces in her chart. I did see, I think she's maybe Venus in the 12th house. But there's not a lot of Pisces energy, right? And there's not a lot of water energy in her chart from what I saw. So also she is a Mercury in Capricorn. So she's very direct. I feel like in her personal life, especially, or in this setting, this work setting, Mercury and Capricorn can be very direct with what they want. And that's not always a bad thing because it's very clear. But when you have these other components, Aquarius is ruled by Saturn and Uranus. So that's where she kind of has that quirkiness to her, right? That quirk. But then in that difference, right? That Pisces and Aquarius together can be very interesting because it's a person who's not afraid to be themselves. And they don't, it's not a popularity thing, right? But the problem is with Mercury and Capricorn, so now we have Mercury and Capricorn. Mercury and Capricorn is also ruled by Saturn. Right? Saturn rules Capricorn. Y'all know that. And then Moon in Aries is self. So what I'm saying is when you put those energies together in a person, you can get someone who, those allegations that people are saying about Ellen. I do think there's a part of her that does try to help people though. So she might be one of those people that's like, but I did this for the people, but I did this for you, but I gave this family who was struggling clothes for a year. But I am Mars and Sagittarius, a rebel with the cause type of energy. The Mars and Sagittarius, everything they do is linked to some grand purpose. So she does a lot of things in order to show her message. But I also see here, I feel like she might be Aquarius, can be really good at like understanding what society needs, or seeing a group of people and being like, I gotta change that. We gotta do something for them. But at the same time, it's not the warmth. It's not the warmth of other signs. So sometimes it can come off as kind of that more detached, like, oh, here's some, okay, I'm gonna help you out. Let's do this. But it's not that I don't feel close to you just because that Aquarius did that thing for me. Again, why am I saying this? The other energies in her chart. We have to look at everything, because you can have an Aquarius who has a Pisces moon and Cancer North Node, and I don't know, a lot of other placements showing they might be a more warm Aquarius, where now their dedication to society matches how they treat people in their relationships. So with astrology, that's what you have to do, combining things. We're not just one, oh, my sun sign is this and I'm this and that's it. Well, you're going to be severely limited in your life if that's how you look at sun sign, if you only look at sun sign astrology. But that was it for this 35 minutes. I definitely don't want it to be 40 minutes. Thank you for watching. Please make sure you subscribe. And also, if you like this video, like it. And also, I said subscribe because you're going to find, listen, if you're into astrology, you're going to find at least one of my videos that you like. I promise you that. All right. Thank you for watching.